This is the Real Change Wilmington podcast, episode 26, opening of the Lumberton General Store with our guests today, Sam Ginn and Emma Buchanan.
When I see these pictures or I have memories of being a kid, it did feel charming and it felt like home. And we wanted to recreate that. So, I got a candy machine just like the one that I remember when I was a kid. We have a very beautiful bankette that my uncle made us that makes it just warm and it feels like home.
Hey everyone, this is your host of the Real Change Wilmington podcast, Dustin Pierce.
And I'm the co-host, Emily Spencer.
Real Change Wilmington is your positive, constructive, and lighthearted source of local news, events, and resources. And on our podcast, we interview leaders of local organizations to help squash rumors and foster a greater sense of community in Wilmington. So Emily and I have been to the Lumberton General Store a few times since it's opened. We've been a few times for office lunch on Thursdays, and I've taken a few friends there. So let's do a quick recap of their menu. Emily, what's been your favorite things you had so far?
Well, I've only had the chicken sandwich and one of their donuts. I have not been as many times as you, but the chicken sandwich is very good. It's very crispy. I appreciate that. I like crispy food. A soggy chicken sandwich is just sad for everybody.
Yeah, it comes with like a nice coleslaw on it, but Emily's a savage and just eats it plain.
I don't like coleslaw. Stuff is gross.
Yeah, she doesn't have a very refined palate, I guess. But yeah. So today we went for office lunch also, and I had the smash burger, and that thing is out of this world good. So good. I devoured it in like 5 seconds.
That is true. I had taken one bite of my sandwich. I look over, and Dustin is like, he's like, you ready to go?
Yeah. They also have very good lattes and cappuccinos, I think. So I'm not a cappuccino guy, but for some reason when I walk into Lumberton General Store, I feel like I gotta get one, like I'm some fancy person or something. So they have a walnut flavored, what's it called? Walnut something? I don't know. It's a walnut, dark walnut latte. Very good. They had a honey lavender one today with local honey. So amazing.
You can request it in the fun mugs.
Oh yeah, and they got fun mugs. I had a piano mug today. So you can, when you walk in there, you get your own little mug, which is pretty cool. So we talk about a lot of stuff on this podcast. Again, we recorded this about a few weeks before they actually had their soft opening. So they're going to tell us the story about, getting started, some of the partnerships they had to develop the site, and some of the childhood memories Emma has with the Lumberton General Store. So pretty cool story. I'm excited to get into it. So without further ado, let's hear from Sam and Emma. Hey guys.
Hey,
what's up?
So we like to start these podcasts off with just learning about who you are. So why don't you guys just share about your upbringings?
Cool. Why don't you start?
So I grew up in Wilmington. I grew up just about 3 miles down the road from Lumberton and on McKay Road. I went to school in Wilmington. I then went to college in Cincinnati and then transferred to Columbus, and I have my BFA in fine art photography. I then traveled around a little bit, made my way up to San Francisco, and met this very handsome gentleman there.
Right on. And we'll continue the love story after we hear about Sam's story. Yeah.
I'm born and raised in California. I lived there until I moved out here in 2019. I moved all over California, working in restaurants since I was 15. So about 30 years of restaurant work. I also went to college along the way, which usually people say that in the opposite order. But I went to college at UC Santa Cruz, and then I got my master's degree at San Francisco State. So I ended up in San Francisco for about 15 years before moving out here, and all in the restaurant business. So I worked everywhere from Taco Bell to James Beard award-winning chain restaurants.
As a chef?
Always front of house.
Okay.
So I was always front of house. So except for my very first job, which I was a dishwasher. And once I was offered a job as a busboy, I took that pretty quickly because...
Who wants to be the dishwasher?
Yeah. I think that any job has its pluses, benefits and disadvantages. But I worked a little bit better front of house. So I worked as a busboy, I've worked as a waiter, I've worked as a bar back, mostly a bartender. I was a bartender for about 20 years. Did some management, but found that management was usually kind of a thankless position. It was like a little bit of a demotion from being a bartender because you had more responsibility and usually made less money. So there was just a point where I wanted to either own a place or leave the industry. So I left the industry and started teaching. But then Emma, I met Emma. She talked me into moving out to rural Ohio, and I'm digging it. And she'd been talking about this little place that her grandpa owned back in the day. And so when we moved out here it was.
So how did you guys meet in California?
So we met through a mutual friend. I was managing a barber shop, and Sam was bartending in the restaurant next door. And so, after we locked up for the night, I would get a little nightcap before going home, and that's where we met.
Yeah. We became friends, and we would just kind of chat over the bar. And after many months, we finally became a couple. Yeah.
So we just celebrated our first wedding anniversary on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you guys get married during COVID then, or?
No, just last year.
Oh, okay.
So we've been together for much longer.
Sure.
So we had a baby during COVID.
Yeah, we did have a baby.
Oh, wow.
So
when did you move back here? What year?
2019. June of 2019, we moved back.
Okay.
So we hitched a U-Haul to our Toyota Tacoma.
Four cylinder over 2 mountain ranges.
And drove across.
Yeah.
And we now live in the home that my parents still own the property, but my grandpa lived in that house. So literally across the street from the restaurant.
Yeah.
So and we've been there ever since.
So what's the history of the Lumberton General Store?
Yeah, so it has been in one shape or form a restaurant for 80 years.
I hear 80 years, but that's just kind of the talk that I hear. And I hear that from Paul and Randy Wyatt, who own the building. And there will be people that will come in here over the few years that we've been working on it, and they've been working on it, who will be saying, oh, hey, back when I was a kid, be a guy in his 80s saying, when I was a kid, I used to come in here, but it was laid out really differently. And hold on, I'll draw you a picture of it. And so he comes back and he has a little sketch of the layout.
He said, the nickel slots were back here.
Nickel slot was over here, and there was a grill over here, or a grill. And then when when it was being gutted, you pull all the ceiling off, and sure enough, there's a stovepipe sitting right there. So, he was right. So that's pretty good evidence that was really the case,
Yeah, we also have some artifacts that we'll have hanging on the wall. We have a check written from the owner. It was called the Lumberton Store in 1916. And we have a piece of paper that was made from a magazine or newspaper that lists kind of what they sold. His name was his last name was Harris, and his son then took it over. And we have a calendar when his son owned it in 1942, still as the Lumberton Store.
But we're not sure that was, we wouldn't think that that's necessarily this building, but that was there. Emma's dad will have some old atlases from the area, and it will show that there was a hotel maybe right there, and that there was post office, and it was a little bit more of an actual little hamlet kind of thing,
Okay.
So it's been something, either a store, a restaurant, for a very long time.
But your grandfather owned it at some point in time?
My grandfather owned it. He acquired it in the late 80s and then owned it until probably the early 90s.
Okay.
I remember coming here as a kid. My mom actually just told me a story that there was a phone booth here. We had a family event here, and no one thought the phone booth worked, and I was calling 911, and the sheriff showed up. So I was probably 4 or 5, So my grandfather owned it. From then, he hired Sharon Bone, and then she worked for him, and he sold it to Marvin and Sharon, and they were the last owners before us that had it for, decades.
Do you know how long it's been closed for?
It has been closed since 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2015 is when it closed.
Yeah. And I heard, from our neighbor over here, that some kids busted out all the windows. So then once that happened, critters started getting in, and there was when we would come in there in the beginning, there were bird nests in the walls over here, and there were some leaks in the roof, and that cold and hot over a few years of not being touched. It busted the place up pretty good. So,
and the building was then possessed by the Clinton County Land Bank. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think that's right. And I don't know the kind of any of the details of all that, but I do know that when we moved back and we would just see Taylor and be like, hey, what's going on with that place? And he was like, well, it's going to need a lot of work. And there's like this whole thing with the septic system and all this stuff. And it ended up getting sold to Paul and Randy Wyatt from Cabinet Gallery, the space just south of here, or the business just south of here. And he introduced us over email, said, hey, these guys are interested in maybe starting a business there. And we ended up just walking over one afternoon and said, what do you guys plan on doing with that? I said, I don't know. It just looks terrible. We want to make it look nice. I think the arrangement was, at minimum, they had to paint it, replace the windows and doors, remove the shrubs. And because the county had acquired it, they also rezoned it so that the parking situation here before was super sketchy, where people would just kind of barely pull off and pull right here.
Oh, yeah.
It was very bad.
Yeah. So they had to the county took the opportunity to rezone it and kind of create some parameters of what was
safe.
Yeah, what was safe as far as parking and stuff. And then we walked over and just said, what about us opening a restaurant in there? I said, all right, sounds good. And we shook hands on it. And then we had no formal arrangements for 2.5 years, until finally we had to actually like sign something and determine like rent and stuff like that. But
so you were doing work for those 2 years and then just on a handshake? On
a handshake, they basically did the renovation.
Okay.
With our guidance. We drew up pictures and told us, we wanted this, we want that, we want this to be this big here. And they would just do the nicest guys. We call them our guardian angels, because not only were they trusting of us that this was all going to work out, they did all of these things that we couldn't do financially. They're very capable guys and also very well integrated into like the community.
Engineering. Oh, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're able to do, they did a lot of the work themselves, but they could. They had friends and connections that could take care of a lot of stuff. And then they just kept doing it and say, okay, well, yeah, all on a handshake. No, like, let's sign a contract. No, nothing. So that's kind of something that I don't think happens very often anymore. And then we'll get something giant dropped off, like that three-door refrigerator. And we're like, I don't know how we're going to deal with this thing. We have no idea. Okay, well, we'll get our forklift and we'll get a trailer. We'll do this. They drop what they're doing and then they just come over and help us out with stuff. And
nice.
So they're just awesome guys.
They just want to see the area improve, I guess, then.
I think so. Yeah. Being right there, and they've had that company for a long time there. I think that they've dedicated themselves to Lumberton in this area, and they want to see it succeed.
And we want to purchase the building off them when we can. So we've expressed that interest. So, I do think that they're thinking smart, making smart financial moves, but they could do 50%, if not 70% less, and still be totally within, like normal rights as far as landlords are. Those guys are they're our buddies at this point. So it's really nice.
Speaking of being like just wise businessmen, I'm sure like the traffic here to your location will help their business too. And so people just driving past all the time,
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that the other day, where when this restaurant was open before, people would be looking out the window and they would have customers walk over and speak to them.
Yeah.
So I think it is beneficial on both parts.
Yeah.
They just, obviously this is not you don't get foot traffic around here. So
no, you'd be dead.
Yeah. So yeah, Randy expressed that used to happen. So hopefully we can provide them with some more customers.
We did have our neighbors from right behind us over, and they were like walking back and forth one day.
Yes,
that was kind of sweet.
That was the only foot traffic that's allowed.
So what have been some of the struggles of opening a restaurant? You guys have a little bit of experience in the restaurant industry, but what are some of the big hurdles that you've had to overcome, like purchases or business plans and stuff like that? Funding?
SBA?
Yeah, we were able to get an SBA loan. We're very grateful for it, and it's made everything possible for us to start this huge venture. But it was very challenging to do that. There were a lot of hoops to jump through. It took a long time. COVID slowed things way down, obviously, in a lot of different, getting things being out of stock.
having a baby in the middle of it.
Yes, having a baby in the middle of it.
Starting a new career in the middle of it. In addition to this, so we've had some life stuff that just comes up and it makes things hard. But yeah, I mean, people always said, oh, SBA, it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of this, it's a lot of that. But we didn't really understand how detailed they want things from you for how long, it's like they wanted, monthly projections for 3 years. So it's like, well, I mean, we can do our best. And,
Which is now beneficial to us.
So much of this is totally beneficial to us now.
It is. But in the moment, it was very challenging.
Yeah. So one thing about it that was really hard, I think, or one aspect of the challenge is that we're going to have an espresso program, we're trying to do, or a coffee program that's really top notch. We want to have like killer coffee drinks. We want to have the really good equipment for that. So we need to kind of figure that part out. We're also going to have a retail component. So that was another aspect of the business that we kind of had to figure out. Then we're opening, and then there's, of course, like main thing we're doing is a restaurant. So it's another aspect of what we're doing. So it wasn't like a straightforward one single kind of business model type of thing. We're kind of blending some business models together. We're also trying to be smart about labor, because labor is challenging to get a hold of people who, trying to get a hold of a workforce, and that's hard to do. Also, wages are going up. So we also had to consider that with our business model. So we're going to be doing kind of a counter service. We're kind of thinking of as counter service that we're going to have really great customer experience. It's not just going to be like you order, you get your number, somebody comes out yelling your number, you raise your hand, we slap some plates on the table and see you later on. There's a business model that I became familiar with in San Francisco with some of the finer dining places that weren't so attractive to some of the younger clientele that started coming in. It wasn't, people weren't so into fine dining and coursing things out and all that kind of stuff. People wanted just to have a more casual experience, but they still wanted really good food and they still wanted good service. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to do something like what I've seen before, which is you still order and pay at the counter, but then once you sit down, it's just as nice as any other kind of dining experience that you would have.
Yeah. We have something similar to that here. I think the North Star in Columbus has that similar business model. Exactly. Yeah, it's a very nice place, and it feels casual.
I love North Star. Yeah. Your veggie burger. I love the veggie burger.
It's like one of the first places you took me in Columbus, for sure.
You're also going to do some so you have that piece of the business model, and then you're going to do pickup orders and stuff like that too, and like more large groups of people too, try to accommodate those.
Yeah, we want to roll all that out. I mean, we built the kitchen in such a way that we want to be able to grow into the kitchen. If you take, say, friends of ours that work in places in Wilmington, and they say, well, this kitchen's way bigger than our kitchen, but your business is smaller than our business. Well, okay, we left it that way. We could have changed things. Some of these walls were reframed and everything. Could have made it smaller and made more seating, but what we want to be able to do is pick up on carry out and be able to manage that. And also, we want to be able to have people come in and use the kitchen, maybe probably not during business hours, but we want to be able to use the kitchen to start their own gigs too. Mm-hmm. So we have our friend, Dawn Richards, who has a home cottage food business. And for example, she bought us some pies, and we loved her pies, and we said, hey, well, how if we buy your pies and we'll sell them at the restaurant? And she said, great. And so, and maybe what we can do is we can arrange something so you can come in and use our kitchen space for your own business. We can buy the pies off of you, presumably get some sort of a discount because you're using this, trade-off from the cost, because you're using our space for things that are outside of our business. And then everybody wins, right? So we're trying to dig into this idea where in whatever way we can, whether it's Dawn, whether it's Bank Barn Meats with Steve and Rachel, just in Jamestown over there, who are raising chicken, lamb, and beef. We've been communicating with them, or the Portmans who we're going to buy some pork from. We're going to be communicating with these people so that what we can do is mutually grow our businesses. Mm-hmm. As we kind of figure out we have to figure a lot of stuff out on ours. Like how many chickens do you need to raise? We don't know yet. But what we want to do is try to integrate our businesses in a way that we mutually benefit each other, and that everybody and then the community wins at the same time, because then they're getting great local stuff. You're getting something maybe that you don't get as often. I mean, of course, businesses in town have been using some local stuff, but we're going to try to put that a little bit more central. Mm-hmm. But we've also realized that we have to grow into that. It's not something that's just like, there's not a ready-made system for that. Mm-hmm. If you go into Columbus, then there's probably, you have Brassica, North Star, and all these places that are going to be already set up. There's already a network set up for local farms to bring things in. Mm-hmm. That's not really present here.
That makes sense.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's like supply chain stuff.
Yeah, just kind of getting people more interested in eating local food.
Yeah.
Getting the local producers, giving them a place, or either our retail to some degree, and then eventually slots on our ingredient list for our meals. Start filling those in with as many local products as well. And then being able to help grow their business alongside ours, just kind of looking for like a super win for everybody kind of situation.
Yeah. Emma, I know that your mom is the manager or director of the farmers market, and you have some connections with some local vendors that you're going to put in your cases out front.
That's right.
So can you like kind of tell us about some of that stuff, and then also maybe the menu items too?
Sure. So last summer, I was the assistant manager under my mom, Sally. So that was really fun just to do that with her, and then also grow relationships with the vendors there. Obviously, we were big market goers anyway before, but it was a little different just seeing them every Saturday and working with them and learning how the market works was really beneficial for me. But, just like last Saturday, I met a new vendor who's going to hopefully supply us with eggs, local eggs, which is great because that's very hard to do. So that's been a lot of fun. There's also vendors we're going to supply from that aren't at the farmers market. It is sometimes intimidating for people to join the farmers market because you need certain insurance and get a farm tour and things like that. It's a little intimidating.
Commitment,
people commitment. Yeah. Setting up every Saturday. So we're not just going to look for those farm market vendors. We're also going to look for other people that do things outside of the market. Obviously, we'll still probably do farm checks and make sure everything is humane. That, everything is good. But
it's part of the due diligence that we have as a business.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's been really fun. We have a cookie vendor and a honey, and I think our shelves will just continue to grow as we open, people say, "Oh wow, I didn't know you were having local things. I make this, or I raise this," or I think they will continue to just grow and get really unique things for the community. So I'm excited to see that.
I do have some chickens, so at some point in time, if I sell eggs, and there's a process of getting them verified. I only have 11 or 10.
Okay, that's cool.
But anyways,
better not say 11 eggs going to come.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to have 11, so I have 10 technically.
Yeah, there are certain things when we talk with the health department about, what is it we can use? You'd have to get it processed at
oh yeah, for sure.
I know USDA.
There's a lot of
stuff.
You want to use the local ingredients in as many menu items as possible.
Yes. So we're going to have a small set menu for breakfast and lunch. Right now, we're just doing breakfast and lunch, and then our pastries and our pie. And right now, it's very small. I think 7 items in each section, breakfast and lunch. We'd also like those set items to be pretty consistent. So right now we are unable, kind of how Sam was talking, where producers have to grow with us because we can't be consistent right now with those set items. So we are running those ingredients from a distributor until a local producer says, great, I can guarantee I can give you this many chickens, for this food item. So until we can all get to that point, we are going to be just getting it from the distributor. But because we have such a small set menu, we're excited to focus on seasonal local specials. So whether that be weekly, whether that be a daily special, whether that be a weekend special, we haven't really decided. I think it depends on how much of a product we can get, what's in season. So that way we can still have local things, but they can be specials and our set menu can be consistent. In quality and taste.
So we're just trying to get savvy about how we squeeze things in. So honey is something that you can get a lot of. So honey is something that if we're going to be using honey, be only using local honey, and we're going to be using, say, like honey syrups for our coffee drinks when we're making syrups and stuff. So that's something that we can kind of count on. My friend John Brandstrader, who I worked with for a couple of years, he's milling grains. Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt. He's milling grains, and so like, you know, some heritage like wheat varieties and that kind of stuff. So we can use some of that stuff when we're making our gravy. So we're kind of like always looking for ways to try to insert the local ingredients into the menu. But like Emma says, if you talk about our fried chicken sandwich, well, that's a chicken breast. You get 2 per chicken. So ideally, right? So you have. So at that point, the question is, when we talk to, say, Bank Bar, they say, well, how many do you need? I say, I have no idea. I say, well, you know, we can't say, hey, we're doing a local fried chicken sandwich. And then when we run out of the local stuff, we use, non-local stuff. It doesn't really make sense to do that, because then you can't charge the same amount for it. And we're not really, I don't know, we want the transparency to be there. So we're starting in a place where we come at it with, let's just go where we know we can keep our promise. We're getting it from the distributor. We're trying to make really smart decisions within that. We have the distributor on board trying to get stuff that's local and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we also have, I'm sorry to cut you off. Yeah. The distributor has a Springfield location, and our microgreens are right next to it. So our microgreens, even though we're getting them through our distributor, they're technically still from Ohio. So even if we get things, we're still being conscientious of like, where it's
local. We're being kind of loose with local too, like when we need to. You know, I mean, if it's from Springfield, then that's like, we're pretty stoked on that. You know what I mean? We're not like importing it from Ecuador or something like that, right? So, but that's where we kind of realized the way that we have to mutually grow with people is to get those things on the menu and those ingredient slots. That can take some planning on everybody's part. So once we get going, we get some numbers that are consistent, and then we can say to somebody, hey, if you can consistently get us this much chicken every week, you know, at a price where we don't have to like charge too much for people to want to buy it, then we're for sure going to do that.
So you're planning to opening in July, correct? And what are going to be your hours of operation?
So our opening hours are going to be Tuesday through Sunday. So Tuesday through Saturday, we're going to be open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., but our kitchen is going to be closing at 2. So we'll have, you know, breakfast ending at a certain time, lunch beginning. You can order lunch until 2, but from 2 to 3, people can still come in, grab a coffee, grab a donut, you know, a pre-made sandwich in the cooler, things like that. And then Sunday, we're going to have shorter hours, I believe from 9 to 1-ish. We haven't really nailed that down, but Sunday, it was a very popular place to come on Sundays. It used to be. So we would like to keep that available still.
We also want to hang out with our son a little bit.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe we'll just keep it kind of cool on Sunday because everybody will be cooked from the weekend. Hopefully it'll be nice and busy. And then Sunday we still have people come in, and you know, we're kind of calling it church hours. You know, so people will come
before
in.
and after. Yeah.
I didn't ask this before, but what are some of the things that make this place charming? Like maybe from the past that you're keeping going forward?
Yeah. So we, you know, in the demo days, we kept a lot of things, hoping we could reuse them. A lot of those things, we found that we could not reuse them because they were too damaged and they cost too much to fix. That was mainly equipment. We did keep the original booths and we refurbished those. So there's still a little, you know, cracks and scuffs in them, but it gives a little bit of character. And I love seeing old pictures and still having those same booths. We kept some old vases. We kept the table legs are the old table legs we refurbished. So things like that. We'd like to, I guess when I see these pictures or I have memories of being a kid, it did feel charming and it felt like home. And we wanted to recreate that. So, you know, I got a candy machine just like the one that I remember when I was a kid. We have a very beautiful baguette that my uncle made us that makes it just warm and it feels like home. We have
and baguette means like this big seat we're sitting on.
Correct. Yes.
I would not know when you said baguette. When you pointed that, I was like, okay, baguette.
Built-in bench. we have a variety of mugs because that's what we do at home. I like to thrift different mugs. But it also just makes it fun and makes it feel more like home. And you come in and say, what mug am I going to get today? Because Sam and I actually used to go to a diner in San Francisco called Eddie's that did that. And I was always so excited to see what mug I was going to get today.
Nice. No request.
So I think that gives it a very homey feel. So, obviously we wanted to be clean and modernize it a bit, but we wanted to just make it feel warm and cozy and home-like.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What are you guys most excited about opening up this place?
I think I'm most excited about hopefully money turning the other direction.
Yeah, I could imagine after 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, find a different.
I know. This is the truth.
No, but seriously though, I mean, obviously it was a dream at the start, and like it's reality, and you gotta make money at some point.
Yeah,
you got a
of
family
course.
and stuff.
I mean, it's been, sometimes I'll think about how we've been working so hard on something without getting paid. But that's okay. I don't mean to be like that, but it's nice.
We've been working on it. We've been working on it so hard for other reasons. But I think back to why did we want to open it in the first place? True. Restaurants, you don't make a lot of money from restaurants at first. And we went into knowing that. And so I think back, why did we want to open this place? I've always dreamt of opening this place for years. When Marvin and Sharon still owned it. It first shut down in 2015. I called my mom when I was in San Francisco. I said, get it, buy it. Buy it. I'll move home. I'll help you with it. Just get it. And, she had a job and it wasn't it wasn't possible for her, which was fine. But I'm very excited to open it back up to the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that for me, it's about seeing people come in and bringing somebody in here to show them the place. Like, I hope that happens. That's what I really want. I want somebody to say, I want people to feel
like it's their place,
like good about it. Yeah. It's like we really tried to develop the menu and the look in here so that it suits the community that we live in, and that people would feel good. I think that we will have done it and really made it if people say when they have family visit, there's a place that I want to take you that's really cool here in town. Yeah. And if I was able to overhear somebody say that, then that would make me feel really, really good.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have very strong memories and connections to this place. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited for those people to come back and tell us those stories. We've heard stories like my parents got engaged there and my sister had her wedding reception.
My grandpa took me hunting, and then we go eat there afterwards.
So, and we love hearing that kind of stuff because it's whatever this place was at whatever time, it made an impact on people, and it kept that memory alive. And so I'm excited to start that again. Yeah. And
see farmers sitting in here having coffee. Yeah. Shooting the bull.
Yeah. Just like when my grandpa owned it. That's what we want.
That's the key. If that's the magic, you know what I mean? And I think that's what makes a place really work, is that if you have a place where you feel like you are welcome, you can relax when you come in, and then you're taken care of, in a way that's authentic. And so that was one of the things about opening this business with Emma. After I have a lot more experience than she does, Emma has this authentic hospitality. And that vision was like, I pictured it in my head, even in San Francisco. I was like, Emma in a summer dress with a big smile, people walking in. I was like, oh, dude, this place is going to be awesome. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's really going to be about the community having a place here that's a little bit out, between Xenia and Wilmington. That's their own spot. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on our podcast. Thank you for all the work that you put in over the years to open this place back up. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Right on. Thank you. Thanks for having us on your podcast. Appreciate it.
So that is it for our podcast today, folks. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Sam and Emma at the Lumberton General Store, and definitely check them out. They currently have some soft hours. So just check online before you go to see when they're open. And they have breakfast and lunch and some takeout items. One of their takeout items is a cantaloupe basil popsicle that Emma makes. And I had that thing after we ate today. It was so good. Emma calls it muskmelon, which is
Emily, not Emma.
Emily. Yeah, see, if you can't say the popsicle name right, I'm not going to say your name right.
Don't insult Emma.
Oh, well, I called you Emily, or Emma.
Well, now you're confused.
I'm so confused now. This podcast has gotten away from me.
Dustin refused to call it muskmelon, even though that's what it is.
I'm pretty sure the label says cantaloupe and basil.
Muskmelon is the overarching term for a melon that has like webbing and seeds inside of it.
Well, this is a restaurant, not an archaeology site, okay? So I'm going to call it cantaloupe. I think that's enough for our for today. If you want to learn more about Real Change Wilmington, Emily, how would they do that?
You can find us on social media on Facebook and on Instagram, where you actually just surpassed 700 followers on Facebook.
And we are also on all of the major podcast players. So if you like Spotify or Apple Music, you can check us out there. With that, I'm your host, Dustin Pierce.
I'm the co-host, Emily Spencer.
Keep it real, Wilmington.